Hello, 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 dear developers. My name is Maxim Salnikov, and we start the meetup dedicated to progressive web apps. This time, it's a gathering of people from multiple communities. So we announced this event for Oslo Progressive Web Apps Group. We announced this event in London Progressive Web Apps Meetup, and for the largest front-end development community in Norway called Francia. And right now you watch this live stream on Francia YouTube channel. So if you came from PWA Oslo or PWA London, don't be surprised by this branding. This is a collaboration of user groups where for which progressive web apps is a super relevant topic. Before we start the technical sessions, just a few announcements from my side as organizer or co-organizer of all these three groups I mentioned. I always look for the speakers. So if you wish to present here, virtually on the next event on a broad variety of the topics, of course, PWAs, or if you talk about front-end community, any topic related to web front-end development, something about your best framework, something about JavaScript, something about awesome CSS tooling, anything. Just ping me and let me try to put something on the screen. Yeah, maybe you could use this URL directly, cfp.framcia.no. You'll find super simple form to fill in, and we'll have your session proposal for the next events. And I hope that sooner or later we will be able to go back to in-person events. Of course, then will be somehow limited to the physical location, and I personally based in Oslo, Norway, and Francia is also a Norwegian group. So I like no promises, but we'll try to run the next event in-person mode somewhere in Oslo. Of course, taking into account all considerations about safety. Enough words from my side. Let me invite and introduce our first speaker. Hello, Alex.
Hi, Max.
Great to see you. Thanks for supporting our event by your technical session. Maybe before the session you could say a couple of words about yourself. What are you doing and how are you related to progressive web apps topic?
First, thanks for inviting me to talk. It's really a great opportunity to talk about our ideas and how we see things. And our experience is quite extensive in the progressive world, as the first app that our team has created was done in 2015. So in parallel to the name itself. And it was made on the platform that we've built to then to make this kind of apps. Of course, we didn't know that we were building progressive apps at that point. And we started doing the platform in 2014, so a full year before. And right now we are at the third iteration of the platform. It has gone through two major updates, deep updates, and we do things with our platform from anything to progressive apps related. So you build a application and you have it on a web and you have it as an installable form for any platform, any iOS. And so it's sort of like a platform related to everything progressive, from building apps from scratch, from without coding anything at all, or maybe with some code for things where you need it to, because no platform covers everything ever, and to supporting more like different stages of progressive apps development. And we are integrated with several interesting systems, and we have about over 1,000 active applications right now running on our platform. So we do know some things about progressive apps and how they should behave. And everything I'm going to be talking about is, of course, based on our experience and our research that we've done while trying to, push this topic and push this subject together with through all the inconsistencies and all the negativity and all the questions of why do we need this? We have native apps and things like that. So yeah, that's about us.
Cool. I'm super looking forward to hearing your session. From myself, I can say that all the information about real world progressive web apps is exactly what dev community needs now. So enough this like theoretical sessions. Let's check what's going on in the real world with the real PWAs. And on that, Alex, stage is yours. Let me put your slides on the screen. And yeah, good luck with the presentation.
Thank you, sir. Well, yeah, the question that we often see is to do or not to do. And by answering that question, to answer the question, I think we should look at the current state in the world of the progressive world wide web and to understand how things are in reality. And in my presentation, I will not discuss technical issues. There is just loads of information out there, and I'm here to share more to the maximum the information about how the progressive apps are really doing right now all around the world. And then I will try to make some conclusions as to what we need to do and why we need to do to grow faster and further with the progressive apps, right, which we love. And all these conclusions are more or less based on, one, our experience of 6 years now, right? And two, is that about 9 months ago, we understood that we knew nothing of an outside world, of an outside of our own perimeter, of how our customers use our system and our applications. So we decided to start this research and to understand what's going on. Is it a hype? Is it over already? How things are going? So it took us about 9 months, and we've been thoroughly scanning the web to understand the adoption rates, to gain some marketing insight into the state and into, of course, the direction to where to develop our own products. And I will share some of the findings that we collected today and try to show you how that data relates to what needs to be done and why that needs to be done right now for progressive apps to go faster and further. And we started with a database of about 300 million top domain top domains. So basically second levels like mobster.com, google.com, microsoft.com. And from each of those, we looked at 5 links deep. So essentially we went through billions of pages and billions of pages. And we know, absolutely know, 571,000 or more already active progressive apps. The way that we looked at them is that we first looked at the initial signs of progressive app on a web project. Then we went in deeper and checked both manifest and service worker for the stage for completion of it. And then we assigned values depending on the state. And then we collected keywords, industries, languages, search positions, and traffic for most of these apps. So out of 300 million, we can say it's 571K active apps, and 2.1 million are still in progress. And the percentage that you see, 0.2% and 0.72%, is essentially a share of the 300 million that was our initial database, right? So just make sure that you don't think that all of these are great working progressive apps, of course, because we've noticed so many times that people have done it just for tests and just kept it up on the web page, and it's not really an app, or it's some junk thing, and et cetera, et cetera. But the good thing here is that we've found the 100% growth rate in the past 6 months. This is not an exact number, as it is sort of extrapolated from the I would say density of how many how many projects do we need to check, how many websites do we need to check to find additional new progressive app. And this density went up twice within the past 6 months. So it means that the interest is growing and the market is still relatively empty. I mean, out of 300 million, we only have less than 1%. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? You can only judge things in comparison. So what we decided to do is to compare a 5-year lifespan of an app store, iOS app store. And after 5 years, iOS had about 850 to 1 million apps in there, but the conditions were, of course, extremely different. At that point, there was low competition, but very few devices on the market. When the progressive started growing, there were a lot of devices, known apps value, but a fierce competition, not just from the native app stores, but also from other kind of user interfaces like chatbots and voice commands and stuff like that. And another kickback for progressive apps was that the first apps that they gave essentially this tech a relatively bad name in our opinion. Say, I remember talking to this guy. He was a head of the Japanese IT for the Japanese bank, and we were speaking with him at the Web Summit in Lisbon, and all of his objections against the progressive apps it came from those initial launches. To be more specific, from a single launch of a international beauty corporation, which had no working back button and lots of other issues in iOS standalone. And sadly, the issues were not based on tech. So it could have been solved. The workarounds for those things existed and we knew them, but it was just not made properly. And those kind of talks, they put you down so much. It felt like the winter was coming for progressive apps in a straightforward killing us way, But look at us 5 years into progressive apps. We have almost 600,000 active ones and 2.1 million in progress. Obviously, the iOS App Store did a better job, right? You have to notice one thing is that a lot of those are junk. Some of those are junk, but there is more junk in progressive apps department compared to the native app store department. So it does feel like the app store has done a better job. The question in my mind is, how quickly will this 2.1 million become something? That's one. And two, what would have happened if were not for a known negative attitude towards progressive apps from a company like Apple? So, even though the iOS App Store has done a better job, let's make it no winner thing, right? No clear winner, because the conditions were not fair to compare entirely. Now, to see how these apps are used in the world, let's first look at the geography where these apps do exist. And English language is an obvious leader, as expected, right? For some reason here, we didn't catch any Chinese market at all. I'm not sure why. Maybe our bots were blocked. We will investigate and update this chart, right? But the comparison would be incorrect. So to make it more correct, we've added a second bar, red bars, and that's a number of applications per million of population speaking that language. English is still the clear winner, but not by so much already. You can see that, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but you can see that the Netherlands have done pretty well, and the Danish language and Norwegian language are not so much behind, and the Polish is doing quite well as well. What we should see here, what's important about this chart, is remember how at the beginning of the progressive era, we were all talking about things like light apps, countries with low bandwidth, with no space on devices, etc., etc. Well, we can say that both from this search that was done and by the numbers of registrations for our tools, for our platform, that the numbers for undeveloped countries rather, are less, way less, compared to those of more developed countries. And the adoption leaders seem to be all quite developed economies. And our educated guess here is that it's because of the higher cost of the man hours, of the working hours of developers. So that means that the main reason for progressive apps to be adopted seems to be the efficiency in development and support, but not the issues with bandwidth and space on devices. So how are the apps used across industries? This is quite interesting. It seems that we do see several industry leaders in implementing progressive apps, right? You look at the business and industrial case, 14% of all progressive apps belong to that particular industry. And that industry is anything business related, from consultancy to bookkeeping, accounting, and chemistry, machinery, right? No, this is wrong. And to see the adoption leaders correctly, we would need to compare to the number of websites per each category to understand how much adoption is in each of those industries. We are still looking as to where we can collect the data, as it would just take too much resources by our team, to go through all of the web and put categories on every website that we research. It's just too much. So it looks like these three leaders up here are, just for the looks of it, for the beauty of it, for different coloring, not to convey anything. But this chart as a whole conveys an important piece of info. Are progressive apps applicable everywhere? Let's have a look at this same data in a different kind of chart. This is obvious. Yes, the progressive apps are used relatively uniformly all around the web, all across different industries of websites, and are applicable everywhere. This pie chart is diverse. In fact, it is really, really, really diverse if we break those higher industries into subcategories. For example, not just arts and entertainment, but movies, music, audio, comics, dances, videos, etc. Not just hobbies, but outdoors, fishing, hiking, snowboarding, things like that. So, this shows that, in fact, people from almost every line of work have found progressive apps as an applicable solution for their ideas. And totally, we know 574 different industries where the apps are used right now. To see how the progressive applications would fare in a different industry, I want to give a couple of examples of our own experiences. Because, how the app fares, it's not about technicality, it's about how many people actually install it, how many people actually use it, what benefits it brings, right? So, and you have to understand that in this case, I'm only talking about the full substitution of progressive apps for native, not about some other benefits of why you should consider making a website a progressive one, which is speed, which is offline capabilities, etc. This is pure war between the native and the progressive. That is all about. I usually divide apps in all the conversations that we have in three different categories. So it's must-have kind of apps, it may be kind of apps, and a never-ever kind of apps. And the must-have ones are things like your bank, your instant messenger, or your social network. The maybe kind of apps are the kind of nice to have ones, like your real estate management, your insurance company, the app that you wouldn't mind having, but you don't want to, bother with it too much. And then the never ever kind of app is the rest, like like small shopping apps, gambling apps, adult apps, etc., etc. And it is easy to see that progressive fares the best in the middle category with a nice, maybe, and nice to have kind of apps, because people normally hate all the extra steps they have to do stuff, and simplicity of progressive install helps in this category a lot. And this is just logic, right? But it is supported by our research. And the research was done in a period of over 3 years in a real estate company, which is still owned by some person I know pretty well. And he builds apartment complexes, large apartment complexes, and manages them, sells the apartment, but manages them later for all the tenants. And he has right now over 20,000 apartments under management. So in the first year, they were on a native app, right? You see the year one, 9%. That means that 9% of the audience of his tenants did install the initial native application. After 12 months, we introduced the progressive app with absolutely the same functionality. And in 12 months, we got to 65%. So the progressive app was installed 7 times more. It's 700%, not 70%, 700%. 12 months later, year 3, we broke off the progressive app and introduced a new native application with a similar functionality. And it only gained 32% in the allotted time frame of 12 months. And it did much better than the first native app, but 65% of users were already used to doing stuff through the applications, like submit meters for water, for electricity, send in documents, request documents, do some things with gated entry to the complex, etc., etc. So people were used to it already, but they didn't get back to installing a new one still, right? So the progressive app was a clear winner in this nice to have category. The second point is an e-commerce penetration case. It also proves the difference between, why you would want it. And the aggregate data you see here, it represents like a selection of, I think it was 300 shops who launched progressive apps using with the help of our platform, and who use the e-commerce CMS, content management system, called InSales. And all those websites are relatively under the same conditions. They had the same number of automatic install prompts. So the conditions are similar, and we can judge this measurement as fair. But you see how different is the success rate between the installation and visits a month. What does it depend on? Well, no surprise here. No one installs shops for rare kind of activities, for things like tourist shops and snowboarding shops. But people often install use cases for food delivery, fish markets, for the repeated task. So if you want a repeated task, you install an app. If it's a rare occasion, you don't install an app. And another conclusion that we saw was that the shops geared towards women had almost twice as higher installation rate compared to an average. But again, when you talk about returning visitors, it only depends on the type of merchandise. So groceries and the like are clear winners, and female shops are clear losers in terms of the number of app opens per 100 or per 1,000 of installs. I guess there is just no surprise here, right? Because just pointing person to an installation, it doesn't. So how can we help all those? I would say myriads, not myriads, but millions of web projects to get those chances. Let us examine the progressive development funnel first. And this is how it looks in reality. And that's just a snapshot of the situation in the world as of last week. Remember the slide with, it was the second or third slide with a 571K and 2.1 mil? Well, this is the same data. This is the same numbers. We see that 2.7 million websites started doing something about the progressive apps. But in overall, only 20% of them did finish. These numbers, of course, are not 100% accurate. It's just a snapshot in time. It could have caught any kind of blimp in the information. And there's also one important piece of the starting funnel of the 2.7 million funnel that is missing here, is that we have no way of telling how many people wanted to do the progressive app but couldn't do it. And I'll explain that a little bit later when I'll be talking about the tools needed for the market. So the conclusion of here is that the funnel obviously can use some helping product for it. And if we extrapolate similar loss numbers to the wider market, the losses would have been staggering, would have been hundreds of millions of websites of clients. But the million-dollar question here is, of course, if the market does really exist for these tools, for such tools. I can say that the total available market is certainly huge and it's certainly there, but the readiness of this market to pay so easy, that's the question that remains open even in our minds. Sorry. So, but this is how huge the difference is, right? We started with 300 million websites and see this little red blimp of a number, 2.7 million. And this is just the guys who started doing this. Surely, of course, not every website needs this, but think about this differently. This is the way I think about it. Is that every business out there, the business has employees and customers, and all of them do not use desktop computers at their work, but everyone uses mobiles. And there are 80 million businesses, registered businesses, only in developed countries who are members of Organization for Economic Development. So how can a progressive app win their business? I think there is two ways. One is to help them move their existing web to progressive apps, to make it as easy as possible. And two is to develop new solutions to substitute the existing solutions or existing problem holes, and the solutions that exploit progressive apps' nature and benefits in terms of low costs and ease of installability. For example, as a second case, there is a large construction materials manufacturer out of Europe who created custom-made equipment-related task manager using our platform. They had something for it before, but it was so inconvenient, and progressive app was the best way for them to solve that problem and to put that application into hands of their employees without app stores, without unpermissive costing. So there's a lot of ways to go about it. Now let us consider a couple of areas where I think that the new tools can be of great help. This is a top of a funnel. How many projects can benefit from progressive apps? And we need tools to make it wider. And again, this is based on our experience. For example, people have different access levels to web backends, and different CMS systems have different functionality. That's obvious. And these two things are more or less the same. But think about it. Most projects do use some underlying tech, right? Like a CMS system. And it can be a corporate level CMS, for example, and this is in our experience already, made by an international real estate agency for their local representatives all around North America. Well, those reps have zero control over the CMS, except to add listings and to edit listings and to delete them, listings of real estate. But they still want users, their buyers, to save their app and return to their app to see the houses that they've shown them. How do you do that if there is no control over the backend in any way, but there is a huge demand for it? I also consider a different situation with the CMS system, which limits the control of what can be and cannot be done by users. And as an example here, take Wix. They do not allow adding any files to root. How are you gonna make a progressive app out of that, right? And so what I mean is that there are products that can be built for these specific purposes for already a large number of end clients of those products. We just have to think about them and build it. And I think look at the last point. It's also very important. The users, a lot of users, most of the users, this is one of the reasons why low-code development and low-code development comes into play right now, is that a lot of users, they just simply don't have any technical knowledge, nor the ability or time to learn. For example, in our integration with the e-commerce CMS in sales, we see that a lot of users, they just use templates and fill it with goodies and start selling. They don't do deeper things. So how do we allow all those folks who have limited something to still have an installable application? Our answer was to create something that we call progressive web app wrapper, or a shell if you wish. It essentially wraps a website into an installable shell without doing anything on the website itself. But I think that considering the market size, we need to think about connecting these kind of ideas with different existing products on the market already. Take another example. It's a company out of US called MindBody. It's a great company, huge beauty and sports center backend system for a lot of businesses. They allow and have on offer a costly native application, but no progressive apps. So if you know someone like that, somewhere in that kind of company, and you manage to persuade those people to add some progressive functionality to their system, you will have yourself a lofty customer base, that's for sure. Now let's go to the middle part of the tunnel, which is the actual making of a progressive app. And you see how many web projects are lost on the way. 2/3 on this stage, 1/3 on that stage. That's a lot. What can be done here? This is not such an easy question. And it's not because of the tech tools themselves that I needed, but because the need of a business, of a web project in a progressive app itself, obviously is not so pressing. So it's the combination of two. One is that maybe it's too cumbersome to make it, and two is that they're willing to wait and no one's pushing them for that. But anyway, this funnel should be and can be improved. And as an example of an idea here, I'm sure that some of you know that manifests can be pulled in using a simple JavaScript placed on a website. And everyone knows how to install a JavaScript script to their website. And this can be a popular product. It can grow. We have something like that on offering, and we have about 500 websites, I think, that are using that. But that tool is too much tied into our platform, and it's not so flexible. And I'm 100% sure that there can be other ideas and the better ones on how to help all those websites to go through the funnel. And again, you have to understand that there are millions of projects and millions of clients are at stake. And the last part, of course, is the value. Improving the last part of the funnel is the value that we get from the progressive apps. Since, I mean, no return on investment is possible if users go down or users are non-existent. And we all know about the Google's recommendations about custom installation prompts. Use it. I'm serious, use it every time in every project. We had time to research this, and it's simply because we just had these prompts from the very start because when we started doing something like a progressive web app, there were no API to add an application even on Android. So all our first clients had to use that home screen kind of menu. So we had those prompts from the very beginning. And when the installation ability came out, we've done the research, and we learned that standard saving prompts, the pop-up that pops up on a page load, is what users close, as they do with annoying push requests. They just close it. So the installation prompts, they do improve 2 to 3 times the amount of installations that you get, but you have to trigger them at the right moments as well. So for example, an easy example would be an e-commerce website. And we normally recommend going for 3 different spots to have the installation ability. One is in header or a menu or a footer with a standard message like, hey, this is our app, install it. One at the catalog or a special offers page with another message on a custom prompt saying, hey, listen, to stay in touch with our discount, save an app. And one after the order is paid for with a different kind of message to say things like, hey, listen, save this app for tracking purposes. This way you increase an ability and increase sense, and it's easy to see that this kind of approach provides for much better results comparing to those annoying and unknown and unclear prompts on why would I install an app, why, right? So you have to tackle that. And there are loads of, as I said before, there's just loads of different systems out there for different industries and different use cases. So creating tools for those software systems that allow them not just to do it the progressive way, but also to do things like this, it's a valuable proposition, right? Get more users, invest less money. And the last but not least is the section about tools to establish user trust. I think that that's only possible with an approach, sort of like a herd immunity approach or herd generated trust approach. But before we continue to herd trust, I want to share another thing, a thing of a great concern to me and my team on what and how we see the progressive apps are misused. Are being misused right now. And I'm talking about 2 separate issues here. One, it's the top 2 lines, is tricking people into installing some sort of a gambling application, which are banned from native app stores. And the ads arbitrage is essentially the same. Those guys, they are getting paid from users making a deposit to gamble with later. And you have to know that the deposit, the payment this ads arbitrages get is often more than the deposit itself, because all further money extraction equations are calculated, and they know how much money they're going to get from each of those people. So the way these guys work is that they try to get an install and then to return a user to make the deposit later on in app. The number of such active apps that we found is comparatively low right now. However, those guys are not not letting up, not giving out, right? And there are also articles exist on the web which explain how to make money off of using progressive web apps this way. And we see a share of registrations for our platform from those kind of actors. We try banning it, we try blocking it, but nevertheless, the good news in this case is that all of those articles are liars, because the actual measurement shows that taking a deposit right away proves higher conversion rate compared to installing an app and then taking a deposit in the app. And this measurement was done, how I know about it, it was done by a serious ads arbitrager. It's just some people I know. It was done with our help, with our consultancy, and they invested about $50,000 into this study. And they stopped when we learned together that it's just not true, I made like, thank God, because these kind of practices give and would give progressive apps a bad name among normal users. And the second issue here is some missed expectations from the first progressive apps launches, which I mentioned before, and most of them are traced to a single company who launched several well-known corporations and screwed up a little bit. But the internet remembers, and it will always remember. So those issues still exist, and they prohibit the movement. And also, there is a lots of biased articles, as I think they are biased articles, which are written by native application developers in hopes of, I think, of keeping their share of revenues. But they most of the time describing what progressive apps cannot do compared to native apps, instead of describing cases where progressive app is enough. So this is your biased attitude, which kind of looks like it's not biased. So, for example, my team, we lost an order from a large insurance company, not because the progressive app was unable to perform what was needed to be done, but because top manager was seated with doubts because of reading all those materials. But again, that's some corporate trust, and we need to get back. Let's get back to the user trust, to the herd immunity kind of trust. How can we fight all those bad actors? How can we fight them? How can we protect our baby, protect what we do with progressive apps? We think that trust can be established using these bullet points. One is to make sure that users know that a developer of an app is not some unknown hidden entity, but someone with a phone number, a face, and a bank account. Two is to do basic app checkups to determine what kind of content is inside, how safe it is, what permissions are required, things like that. Three is to provide a trusted installation hub for people to be sure that what they install out of it came through some checks before. Then to provide, as I said a couple of times, a herd type reassurances from app statistics and user ratings. And then to have ability to do installation warnings outside of trusted perimeter, that for example, that the app is over the age for adult applications, or that it's related to some possible money losses, and has this much traffic and this kind of user ratings. So before user installed, there should be those system prompts pulling in that information and displaying it to a user. And it's of course, no one will install an app to trade stocks after this, but it should be done. It has to be done, because there's just a lot of scammers out there. Take a lot of forex trading websites, which don't even pay their money back, as an example. And we just have to protect our users who trust the technology. And yes, this all does sound a lot like the App Store, but this is exactly what we were trying to run away from, right? At least in my team, the App Store all the time was kind of like an enemy, but it seems that it's just unavoidable at some point, in case if we want progressive apps to really substitute most of the native ones. To really do that, we have to provide that. Except that this time around, I think we have a chance to make it differently. To start, this App Store is platformless by default because of the technology. Great. But also it can be made more like in the commerce type aggregator, to search for things, to measure things, not to buy things inside. So it can be like a guarded but open web, rather than like a guarded walled castle. And it also can be decentralized. I don't want to throw any hype names around, but using some form of the blockchain consensus mechanisms, it can be an interesting way to realize things like future functionality, guiding rules, to share possible revenue of that app store as well. And tokens can be spread based on the work invested into making an app store, for example. Except that, for now, with the resources that we can, and my team can invest into this, the blockchain part is a bit out of the question. It's just a bit too much. But we are working on these other parts already, and it will be placed at a domain called appnova.org. And with the org part emphasizing the open nature of the project, of course, and not such a commercial nature of the project. And we started with small steps for now, just to make it automatic and searchable, so that you can find anything you find on the web, you can find in there as well. And obviously, this is the reason why we've went into such trouble of collecting the search data for all those websites that we found progressive apps on, because we're going to add all the apps that we've automatically find into that catalog and make it searchable. And notice here, it's important, notice here that most of these things are already possible. We just need to connect the dots. Not everything here depends on our ingenuity and our will. Some things must be taken care of by browsers. And it's a good thing that, for example, the Google team already does work on external install API. There is no exact release date yet, but it will allow having a centralized trusted hub to install all these apps from that API when it's going to be released. On the other side, on the other one, it's important to enrich the systems, the browser own install prompts with warnings and with data pulled in from this herd mechanisms. So, when we let users know that app is a bad actor, and let it know in a large red font before they install and return to it. So, we only hope that together with people pulling the different ideas and different information and different resources, that we can build this and put it out to use, such a source of information that can be valuable and important to everyone. Because I hope that this will allow all of us to push the tech that we like, the tech that we prefer, and the tech that we that we want to go further and faster. It will push it further and faster. And I think I'm all out of time and all out of slides. So Max, thanks for your time, guys, and I'm giving it back to you now.
Thank you very much, Alex. That's awesome talk. And what I love the most, it doesn't give you answers, right? It raises questions, mainly questions to think, questions to reflect, and it's a proper set of the questions about future of such an exciting idea like progressive web apps. I fully agree that there is no one right solution on how to make the installation trusted and scaled and convenient for all the involved parties. And one of concerns I heard about PWA is that it's impossible currently to do, for example, remote installation if we talk about enterprise use cases, when you want to deliver particular application on all the devices of your employees. But from what I know, some interesting concept called web bundles is under development in Google. So maybe this could be some kind of salvation for these kind of activities. A question to you, Alex. What are you, as a company, what are you struggling with the most? Explaining and promoting to the particular customer client what is PWA and its benefits, or actual building of this application? What's more? What requires more effort from your company side?
That's a good question. I don't believe that. I think that if we said 2-3 years ago, it would be to explain companies that the progressive is the way to go. Right now, it's so much easier to do that. But you have to understand that if you talk to the right people, if you talk to the digital people, and if some managers of the company who are responsible for budgets participate, they do understand it quicker. But if you talk to like marketing people, this is more difficult, because those guys, they are all, the generation that depends on social and on that kind of stuff. So they are more inclined towards the native app store, and they just cannot understand how an app can be not in the app store, because that's the only place where they think people go to look at it. And you have to explain them, hey, listen, but where do they go to it from? They go from your website, right? So why send them there? You just install from the website. So there's always arguments in this case. And for the worst cases, of course, you can also pull out the trusted web activity for the Android, and you can wrap it into a wrapper for the iOS as well. It's possible. But I would say that for us, the most difficult part is neither. It's more like, because when large companies come to us, they are more interested in the abilities of our platform, because what they look for is a no-code solution, and every one of them have their own ideas of how it can be done, and they all dig this, that they don't need developers. And they try to understand if it's usable, they try to understand if the goals are achievable. And I would say that we spend 85% of our time, of our resources on that issue, rather than expressing, rather than explaining the difference and explaining the benefits. Everybody understands the money benefits, everyone, because you show them, hey, listen, this is, you build once and it works everywhere. And people like, what? Why? Is it possible? Yeah. So I would say that neither. I would say that it's the more like a product related issues rather than a progressive app related issues. And I can say, I also know that I can say that there is a large companies out there that are tired of supporting 2 versions of the native applications. And right now, we work with 2 insurance companies are in the process of hopefully signing up the agreement, 2 insurance companies, both with absolutely the same issue. We are tired of having 3 or 4 development teams, Scrum teams, project managers, blah, 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 blah. For web, for natives, for this, for that, for that. We want a single source to work on everything. So it's starting to, with the scarcity of development resources, the scarcity and the price of development resources, it's starting to sink in, with people. And plus, as we spoke with you before this event, a lot understand that even though there is a lot of tools that manage projects, and there is still a large distance between the person who knows what needs to be done and the person who does it and checks it in the end. So, and that's where loads and loads of costs are. And that's why larger companies, medium to large companies, come to the progressive system, because they can shorten everything. And with no code systems, they just shorten everything, and instead of spending this much, like we are finishing, I know that my team is finishing this case for this company. I think it was $67,000 to make an application that was requested from them, and I think that we've built it for 7. So yeah, 9 times less.
Yeah, makes
And
sense.
then 9
Makes
times
sense.
quicker, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks for your session, thanks for your answers. And yeah, I think it will be absolutely relevant to mention that your company offers, among other services, development of PWAs. Am I correct? Could people reach out you
Yeah.
by email and ask?
But we only do that on our own platform. We don't develop products per se. We only build things to make our system better and to promote our system. That's the focus, and that's the only cases that we take. But I mean, yeah, sure. And we can, if someone has any ideas of the issues that we discussed in the presentation, I mean, feel free to reach out. We are pretty happy to talk to everyone, because the more we talk, the more we communicate, the more ideas we share, the faster we all go. And that's the only goal, because life, I mean, is short and it's one.
Absolutely. Yeah, folks, reach out to Alex, have a look at Mobstead company. Yeah, that's.
Did we get any questions? Did we get any questions?
Not really. But if you folks have questions, just reach out to Alex directly.
Sure.
On that, I wish to say thank you, Alex, one more time, and have a nice day, rest of the day.
All right, thank you, sir. See you
Bye
later.
bye.
Bye.
What's next? Next, we change everything in this on live stream. I mean, both location, and we maybe this is the most dramatic change of the speaker location I ever had on the online events. So we literally move from northern part of Russia, where Alex presented from, to West Africa, and I would like to invite Audrey on our virtual stage. Hi, Audrey.
Hi, Maxim. Hi. Hi,
Nice to
everyone.
meet you. Nice to meet you. Yeah,
nice to work with you again.
Together with the location, we also change the category of the session. So from this inspirational and more like business thinking session, we go straight to the technicalities, and let's make our hands dirty with some code and I believe maybe with some demos. Let's see what Audrey prepared for us. Audrey, the stage is yours, and don't forget to say a couple of words about yourself.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name is Audrey. I am a software engineer currently for a startup in Ghana. So the name of my startup is Turntabl Ghana. So because I know you are all in the meetup group, so I think you can read more about my bio there. So that's why I didn't see why I'll bring a whole slide about it. But sorry about that. Maybe I should have. Well, anyways. So yeah, I'm a software engineer currently, and I work on with JavaScript, React on daily basis. Yes. So right now, I'm going to do a presentation on PWA, which is really a topic I'm really interested in. And anytime I see Maxim tweeting about it, sharing knowledge about it, I'm always like, well, I think I can share a little bit of what I know about it. So I'm sorry, Maxim, there won't be any demo at this stage because of technical issues, a lot of stuff in the background. But we'll get our hands a little bit dirty because I have some code snippets that might help. And then we also navigate the browser and to actually give a relationship between the code snippets and the browser and of course, Azure. So yeah, that's it. So I think, I don't know, Maxim, is my slide already shared? All right.
Yes, we see your slide. So please rock on, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So, okay. So we code, we run, and we deploy. So this slide is going to give an overview, a general overview of PWAs and how they work. Sorry for the background, but I think you can hear me well. So the first thing we want to ask is, what is it? What is PWA? It's not a lot of talking. I mean, I'm going to give more insight. So this PWA stands for Progressive Web Applications. And what are they going to do? So it's meant to give a native app-like experience anywhere. So how will I say it? Mobile. I meant mobile, actually. So whenever you go, okay, let's just take a typical example. Twitter. Everybody has a Twitter account, I guess. But if you were born recently, even older, you might find it useful to have a Twitter account. I have one, and was it 7 to 8 months ago, I changed my phone and I wanted to actually start, I actually wanted to reinstall my apps, and then I was on my email and I saw, okay, I had a notification on Twitter and I wanted to check it out. And suddenly I saw a button that allowed me to make it to my home screen, like not even need to install the application straight, just add it to your home page. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I don't need to actually go to the App Store and download it. Then let me just try it. And it worked perfectly. And this is what it's supposed to be like. Let storage faster, not too much login info, and it's still secure anyways, but fast, everything just there, right here, right now. So yeah. So why should we do this? Like, why should a company like Twitter, who has a wonderful product that has been out there for so long and enjoyed by people, actually use PWA? I mean, they have already almost conquered the market of mobile applications. Why? So, well, it's to eliminate issue with slow network. Well, you may experience slow network from time to time. And PWA actually has some functionalities that allow you to even use it offline for sometimes. Like you can use it offline, online. I mean, it's just an extension of the full application that you have in the web. That gives you the exact same experience as if you downloaded the app on your phone or on your desktop and you use it. So it's reliable because then you can use it from everywhere. You just have the link, you share it with anyone and they can install the app with the link. Like the previous speaker mentioned, no need for app stores anymore. Like, could be a hassle for developers, even for users. So no need for the App Store anymore. And it makes customers more engaging because then they have easy access to your product. Easy access. I mean, nobody wants to have difficulties in accessing the applications, going through a lot of checks in order to install the app, and always asking for updates, and had to restart and reload. And I mean, this is the kind of experience that progressive web applications will give you. They will give you a fast and more engaging experience with your users. So yeah, I could have shared a slide, but I think I will share an article that shows how, even the previous speaker mentioned it. I mean, now web applications are like booming, but I had a discussion with one of my colleagues who is a mobile application, and we were just chatting around that, and he was just telling me, Audrey, you guys are not going to kill our market. You are not going to kick us out of jobs, because it's true. But the web offers a lot of possibilities nowadays. But it's also true that native apps are still native apps, and we don't want that to change. Well, all I can say is that the change is coming. And as the first speaker mentioned, we need more tools. We need to progress in it. We need to make it more available. We need to preach a lot about it, a lot more, from Ghana to Russia to Norway. And but this is really, really what I really like about progressive web applications. They keep people more engaging, and there are numbers all over the internet that shows that. So now let's dive into the topic of the day, which is code, run, and deploy. So code. You will have to use programming language that works on the web, preferably HTML, CSS, JavaScript. But the key trick in here is to make sure that your app is responsive. It is very, very, very important, because you turning it into a PWA will not make your app responsive. So what is the idea? The idea is to have, sorry about that. The idea is to have an application already built, coded, so that application could actually be transformed into a progressive web application. So it has to be an application first. You don't have to be thinking that, I think I'll just have some few code and then I'll turn it, and it can just easily be turned into a progressive web application, and it will work on all platforms. That is not the case. You will have to build a very functional application which is responsive, because then you have to adapt to so many so many screen types. So you you will have a fully functioning application and fully responsive application for that. So we will dive into the rest as we go on, but you have to keep in mind the manifest file. We will talk about it, and then the Node.js serve, and then we also have package.json. We will talk about it in the few slides. So when we code, there is a piece of code that is really, really, really important to us in order for us to make a progressive web application. And it's a JSON format, and it is called the manifest file, and it's a JSON format file where you have key pair values. You have the short name. This short name is the short name of your application. Just give me a minute. Okay, this is the short name of your application. Any short name that you would like, it's up to you. Then you have the name of your application. In this case is it's a code snippet that I picked from a website. Disclaimer here, it's not from me, but yeah. And then you have a theme color that you give to your app, a theme. Some people have preferences, but it's all matters to you, not to anyone really. Then you have a background color that you could give, and then you have a display. You have full screen display. This display, we'll dive into it later on in the slide. But yeah, and then you have icons, which is really a really important thing, because as you scale, as you change formats, or as you change screens formats, you will want your icon to actually adapt to it. So people usually have the same image of the application, but with different sizes. So for that, you just create an array of um, of images here with their source, their type, their size, and as many as you like, depending on the type of screens that you would want to actually try your app on. So, and then you have your start URL. The start URL, well, generally people, which will be the entry point of your application, but generally people will have just a slash or a dot, which means, sorry, starting from the root, and it's up to you. It is really, really up to you. It is really, really up to you. So yeah, and this is it. Oh, I forgot to mention almost. So you will have the manifest generator. So you could have a customized manifest.js file to yourself, and I mean, just adapt it to your own demand, to whatever it is that you want to do. And then you will have a manifest generator file. So just give me a minute. And then you can get it at this URL. Just, okay, right. Thank you. So you have, as you can see on this screen, you have the background, you have the display mode, which is specific to when you want to turn your app into a PWA. This display is really important because it will give you the kind of aspect your app will look like. And for that, we have four type of it. And we have different types of it. We will have the, let me go back to the slide, the standalone, the full screen, and the minimal UI browser, or the browser. So we would want to, let's move forward. So now how do we run it? As I was saying at the beginning, you will have to, really sorry about the background. We will have to make sure our app works. And there are also a lot of things that we'll use here and there that will make the whole thing come together very nicely. And for that, let's go to the browser. Let me stop sharing this screen and stop sharing the screen and go to my okay. So I think, right. Sorry about that. Let me share back again. Okay, I put it here. So yeah, yes, this is actually the screen. I don't know why it's blinking. Okay, I'm not sure why it's blinking. Let me try. Okay, right. So as I was talking before, like early, this is okay. Let's talk a bit more about what exactly we need to do when we're on the browser to make everything come together. So on our browser, I hope everybody can see my screen. So on the browser, we will have to, okay, let me just go to any website. Let me just leave this, just any website that you want. Let's just say Azure portal, if you want to go to the Azure portal. And then we maybe here, yeah. Sorry, I have two screens and I'm so used to so used to work with my upper screen that I actually have a full screen here where I can implement everything. So when we go to the inspect, we will have access to our browser. And then from here, we can go to our dev tools. We will go to applications. And here we are in our browse dev tools, I guess. Yeah. And yeah. So the files that I was talking about are actually basically here, and you can have access to them here. So what is going to happen is that whenever we turn our application into whenever we create our PWA and we have to use, we create the manifest file, the manifest.js, we can see it here. Like everything will appear on this side, And because this site on which we are isn't a PWA site, we can actually not see any data here. But the data will come and be displayed here, basically. That's where you get your data from. And it will tell you, it will give you the names, it will give you the background. Basically, all the information that we filled in the manifest file should be put here. And then from that file, we will have to, and when we haven't set a service worker file, we can see that service worker from other origin, it can't see any of this. And this service worker would act as a middleman, kind of. And what it will do, it will make our application accessible outside the web. This is what the service worker will do. And generally, when you set it up, the manifest file will also acknowledge that we have such a file existing. So, for instance, the service worker, you will have lots of, generally this will be ticked if your application is a PWA and you are on the web. But you will have an option to turn offline. This is what the service app will allow you to do. And it will use all your data because it has been cached. All your data will still be available whether you are online or offline. All you will have to do is to tick this box in order to actually get there. So this is what I wanted to show you in the browser. And we also have to not also forget to mention the local storage, which is really an important part because this is where all your data will be stored in the browser. And it's based on that data that our app will actually be able to go back and forth between the data, between the browser and your extension on the home screen or wherever it is that you want to install it. So yeah, this is it that I wanted to show you from the web server. So let me just stop sharing the screen and go back to our slides and continue our presentation. So I think we should have a bot that will help us navigate between screens when we are doing presentation. I think that would be cool. So yes, now we are back to our presentation. So yeah. So we're done with this slide. Now we have to deploy. And the preferred place that we want to do the deployment from, it's actually Azure. This is what we are on here. And for that, you have to log into the portal. Basically, your journey on using Azure resources starts from the portal, and then you need Azure credits. Yeah, and you need to create resources. And this is pretty much simple to do. With your Azure credits, you will have access to a lot of resources. And at the beginning, I think they give from $150 to $200 worth credits. So you can just start creating an account, and then you will you will use it to create resources. And then you go to Azure Web App. As simple as that. Actually, it should take less than 5 minutes, unless the app is really, really huge to actually deploy it. Yeah, it should take less than 5 minutes to do all of it. So yeah, so now to conclude, I know this was really a high level view, and I hope there will be a part 2 of this session. I don't know, Maxime, if we could have that set up where we can actually code it, an application live here, and I will be really happy to do that. But for now, the conclusion that I want to give is that progressive web applications from a user perspective and a programmer give the best of both worlds. Right. I'm not, okay, disclaimer, I'm not a mobile app programmer, but I can tell that from my experience using progressive web applications, I think it gives the best of both worlds. But the question I want to give you as an assignment is it the end of mobile app world? This is just the assignment I wanted to this is what I want you to bear in mind as we are leaving this talk, and hopefully meet again for a session where we do that for real. Is it the end of mobile application? You can go on and ask yourself that question. So on this stage, I'll say thank you. Thank you for the stage, Maxim. Thank you, everyone, and let's connect. These are my handles. Thank you.
Thanks, Audrey. Nice intro to PWAs, and definitely we need more from your side. The details how to actually deploy this to Azure.
Azure.
Let's keep it for the next session from your side.
Okay. Any questions?
We don't have questions so far from our audience, but a question from my side. What's your favorite advantage of progressive web apps? There are tons of different things why they could be better, but what resonates with you personally the most?
The reliability. I'd see it's very reliable in terms of sharing. I can just share the link, like it's simple link, and somebody has access to a whole application that they can add to their home screen on the phone, to their desktop, and it works perfect. This is really, really what gets me into this in the first place.
I completely agree. Then, thank you very much, Audrey. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, your thoughts, your experience about PWAs, and let's stay connected. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Yep, folks, and that's a wrap for tonight's event. I hope you enjoyed two very different sessions from very different locations, and let's stay connected. How to stay connected? The simplest option for you is to just follow this Twitter account, Francia, and who knows, maybe next time we meet in person. Here I talk mainly for folks who live in Norway or in Oslo in particular. Yeah, on that, have a great evening. Maxim Salnikov was with you, and bye-bye.